The Commonwealth Games controversy, the 2G scam, and a political scenario where the accusations were flying as fast as the reports of the scandals themselves. The mood was grim, with patriotism for India at an all-time low. Enter Kisan Babu Rao Hazare, better known as Anna Hazare for the uninitiated. An unwavering agenda, rustic ideals, and an unmatched commitment to his cause. Anna Hazare was the new age Gandhi that India had been waiting for. As he fasted on to death in his crusade against corruption, Anna forced a previously indifferent government into action. But the story of a brand that had grown larger than the man himself was to be short-lived. The media frenzy surrounding Anna soon became old news. His repeated fasts unto death, a mere debacle that failed to draw crowds, and the cracks within Team Anna far too apparent. The proof of the pudding came with the abrupt disbanding of the movement and their sudden decision to enter the political arena, resulting in an untimely demise of a brand that had won everyone over. Nikita Saxena dug deep to find out what went so wrong for the brand to have taken a 360-degree turn in less than a year.
जितनी अपेक्षा थी इस देश को संभालने की, वो मेरे से पूरी नहीं हुई अब तक।
A fast unto death was the weapon. A crusade against corruption, the cause. The timing in the wake of the CWG expose, the other scandal, and an indifferent government tailor-made. But the trump card was a 64-year-old man who meant business. Anna Hazare caught the imagination of an entire nation with his anti-corruption prose. As the Jasmine Revolution, the Arab Spring, and Occupy Wall Street created waves the world over, India had a revolution of its own. In a year-long tussle, Anna Hazare has been campaigning for a stronger Lokpal bill and effective anti-corruption measures. A compelling proposition, consistent communication, social media traction, and effectual symbolism. Anna Hazare wasn't just any activist. He was a formidable brand in the making. But from the hysterical media frenzy in 2011, the reverberating chants of I am Anna and the overflowing protesters outside Jantar Mantar to a nearly empty MMRDA grounds, a now defunct Team Anna and a Lokpal bill nowhere in sight. The great big Indian revolution has run out of steam. In a fall that was as sudden as his meteoric rise, what caused this brand called Anna to fall into a coma?
It's not even as though the Anna Hazare movement was created by Anna. It was at least in significant measure created by the focus of television cameras and the maladroitness of government itself. However, you see, since this was not a grassroots movement which built up, something that is dependent on a TV primetime audience is an extremely fickle thing. You cannot depend on this forever.
The decisive moment was that once it went into the parliament, it was very important for the movement to have backed off and taken the deal that was available on the table and then worked towards perfecting it rather than go for an all or nothing strategy. They gambled and they lost.
A key problem with the anti-corruption movement was the self-righteous stand that it adopted and its unilateral view of corruption. A popular slogan repeated by Team Anna and their supporters was you're either with us or against us, essentially antagonizing anyone who questioned or critiqued the movement or the Jan Lokpal bill. Combine this with Anna Hazare's reputation of being a dictator of sorts in Ralegaon, Sindhi, when he decided to take the village under his wings, isolating him as an obstinate reformer with antiquated views in the eyes of many liberals.
One has to realize that if you are talking about changing a system, it is not a 0-1 game. Anna Hazare made it a 0-1 game. It is my bill or nothing. And when an individual or even a group takes on the government, usually it will be nothing. You know, a fast unto death works only if you die. Otherwise, it's just a kite flown with no result. The question is going to be, you really believe that it should have been passed by 14th April or whatever that date? How come you're still alive?
However, the most fatal virus of the movement came from within Team Anna itself. Increasing dissonance between major members of the India Against Corruption team like Arvind Kejriwal, Kiran Bedi and Prashant Bhushan on various issues diluted its strength and further reduced the credibility of the movement. The most crushing blow was the abrupt disbanding of Team Anna earlier this month and the extreme shift from being an apolitical movement to a prospective political party looking to contest elections in 2014. In fact, insiders now also seem to suggest that Anna Hazare was merely a tool used by a few co-members of the IAC to popularize the movement and ultimately enter the political arena leveraging his success.
Had they just stuck to being a movement, there was clarity and unity of purpose. That has been lost. Even earlier, there was a tendency to drift into politics. There was some Haryana by-election and Kejriwal went and campaigned against the Congress candidate. Now, that's a mistake. It may well be that that particular candidate was very corrupt, but there are plenty of people of other parties who are also corrupt. The moment you begin to align yourself one way or the other, you are ceasing to be somebody above the conflict. You are becoming part of the conflict yourself. Kiran Bedi's remarks again and again, it tended to be something that could be interpreted as siding with the BJP.
As today, there is no Team Anna because Team Anna was dissolved and so was the core committee. So it all depends on what Anna Hazare now wants. But if Arvind Kejriwal and Prashant Bhushan and Manish Sisodia and the others are determined on political formation, which they've announced that they would do it on 2nd of October, I think that's perfect. They're very well within their rights to do it. But they will do it without, I'm not part of a political formation because I'm not comfortable in seeking votes. But I kept telling my team members that this is the time more for the movement rather than going political.
I don't think Team Anna effectively distanced themselves from political movements, in fact, sent all kinds of contradictory signals about whether or not they were allied with various political movements. And this is where the dissonance, the differing voices in the core team really, I think, hurt their credibility. Now, today, of course, there's still the same disagreement where some members would prefer to support the BJP. Others would prefer to have a political outfit that would contest elections in 2014. Still others, like maybe perhaps Anna himself, does not want to form an explicitly political party.
Anna's biggest strength was the unprecedented media coverage he got on news channels and the extensive reportage of the initial protests. However, as the novelty of Anna Hazare wore off, so did the media spotlight, hence reducing the overall interest and impact. This was reflected in the 2-hour plus per day primetime coverage that Anna got on most news channels during his protests in 2011 compared to the abysmally low, barely half-an-hour slots in 2012.
It seems as if it was almost an experiment to see how far media houses could push a campaign and secure support in the rural areas and across language divisions. And to that extent, rounds 1 and 2 of the Hazare campaign, definitely one can say the media houses proved that if the timing is right, the topic is right, the person is right, they can indeed swing it and achieve massive, they can create a euphoria around a person, a campaign.
It's just boredom. Beyond a point, a story gets boring. And though Team Anna were smart enough to know that they need to be somewhat entertaining, the problem with them is that they started assuming this role of really serious revolutionaries, and they forgot that as the primary news item, they're supposed to be always entertaining, And when they ceased to be that, I thought it was the beginning of the end.
The anti-corruption movement also owes its success to a highly active internet presence and successful mobile marketing. However, the instant gratification of feeling like you were a part of Team Anna through a tweet or a missed call made to the Indian Against Corruption number backfired. With an excellent social media strategy, most of the movement's followers were very happy supporting it online. But that enthusiasm did not translate into active participation offline. As long as they had participated online, most of these followers felt that they had done their bit.
It was here that Anna Hazare made history last year, and it was here that the dismal showing of scattered supporters brought to light a movement that had run its course and a brand that was now damaged beyond repair. Regardless of whether the movement is now revived or not, tactical errors and ill-thought-out strategy have left Anna's once formidable image as the new age Gandhi in tatters and reduced it to a political gimmick.